everyone. It's nice to have you here on this beautiful beginning of spring. The trees are in bud, and here we are in Annapolis, Maryland, talking to two wonderful people, one in Boston and one in Chicago. We're here tonight to talk a little bit about the legacy of Bill Pinkney with two people who knew him extremely well. And I'd like to introduce you to Lorie Conway, the producer of his film. Say hi, Lorie. Very good. And Ina Pinkney, who was his wife at the time and his muse, as he said. So,
little bit.
absolutely. We're looking forward to that.
Thank you.
And we'll get into that in just a minute. Before we do, we have a little bit of housekeeping. I currently am going to have a chat screen up. And if you all would take a moment to just type in where you are signing in from, we'll see if your chats are working. And I will look forward to that. And here we go. So I'm going to type in a little bit here.
Here's chat. Oh, Annapolis. Yep. Janet's in Chicago. Oh, that's great. Hi, everybody.
That fun?
Gail.
Pretty fun. Excellent. So it looks like
Long Island, New Jersey, Old Lyme, Burbank, Knoxville.
We're coming in from all over the place.
Florida.
Yeah, that's great.
Hey.
Wonderful. Now, ladies and gentlemen, during this time, I'll also have a Q&A box running. And if you would like to ask any particular questions, you may certainly type them in the Q&A, and I'll also keep an eye on our comments as we go. So having said that, I would like to introduce you to Lorie Conway and Ina Pinkney. Ina, I wonder if you could just sort of start us out and tell us a little bit about the film and a little bit about the background to lead us in.
Well, I'm going to go first, and then I'm going to give it to Lorie about the film because she's everything to this. So I just wanted to bring people up to speed about who Bill was before he became Captain Bill Pinkney. And he had a remarkable life, and living in this world to be the first at anything is not easy. And Bill started life as an X-ray tech and a hospital corpsman. And then he became the first Black makeup artist in any film union in the country. And then he became the first Black makeup artist to ever be in a department store doing a promotion because white companies were pretty sure that white women didn't want a Black man to touch their face. And so he became the first. Then he became the first Black executive at Revlon Cosmetics when Charlie Revson wanted him to make a line of cosmetics for Black women, and he did. He also did all of the covers for Essence magazine when it started because he was the only one who knew how to do the makeup on the models. Bill then became the first and only Black sailor to sail around the world solo under the 5 Great Capes. And then he took his licensing to become a captain of a large ship. So when the Amistad was being built, they tapped him immediately. And we were there for the laying of the keel, which was very exciting. He also was the very first Black sailor to be inducted into the National Sailing Hall of Fame in Newport, and hello to the museum in Newport. We love those people. And then right before he passed, he had gotten his dream job, and that was with National Geographic as the senior voyage consultant on a project that has not yet been revealed by National Geographic, but he was going to be the man and the go-to man. So Bill Pinkney was a first in everything that he did. And then it would be interesting for me to tell you now how he started sailing. So he lived on 33rd in Indiana here in Chicago. So the lake was right out a few blocks away, and he was always fascinated by that. And I can't remember if he was pushed or he jumped into the lake, but he almost drowned when he was like 12 years old because swimming was not in that venue there. So he then loved the water, but was afraid of the water. When he was in the 7th grade, a teacher gave him a book about a Polynesian boy that was wondering what was on the next island that everybody was talking about. And he didn't quite believe there was another island over there. And so in the middle of the night, he stole a boat and he went in that boat, and he found out indeed there was another island there. So he started out, and this was 7th grade. When we lived in the village in a very small apartment, Bill would take the train up to City Island, where he took sailing lessons. And nobody really knows that's how it all started for him. And he just loved being on the water and being in a boat. Now, on the 72nd Street in Central Park, there's a lagoon. You come in off Fifth Avenue and there's a big lagoon. And we called it the Central Park Yacht Club. And all winter, all of the people who were sailors would build radio controlled sailboats all winter long. Everybody's house was full of sawdust. And in the summer, they would bring the radio control boats out, and we would have gatherings right there at the lagoon at the Central Park Yacht Club. And so Bill learned all about the wind, and he learned about navigation, and he learned about maneuvers, because they had races and regattas with these radio controlled sailboats all the time. When Johnson Products Company hired Bill away from Revlon, we came here to Chicago, and that's how we wound up here. And over at the Belmont Yacht Club, Bill would just go walk up and down the walkway looking at all those beautiful sailboats. And finally, one man stopped him and said, "I see you here a lot, and you seem to be talking to a lot of the crew, and they tell me that you really know your stuff. Who are you, and what do you want?" And Bill said, "I'm Bill Pinkney, and I want to sail with you on your boat." And so he wound up with Art Dick Holtz, who owned a big taxi cab company, and he did 7 Mackinac races with Art. And then he got his own boat, a 26-foot Pearson Triton, I think, called it assegai. Assegai is a Berber word for spear. And Bill would come home. I had a bakery at the time, so weekends were not possible for me to go play. And he'd come home and I'd say, "Well, how was it out there?" And he would say, "Oh, I didn't go." And I'd say, "Well, why not?" He said, "I invited people to come along and nobody showed up." And I said, "Well, you have some choices. You can sit at the dock, or you can figure out how to re-rig that boat and sail it by yourself." And he went, "Okay." So he did. And from then on, he was known as the Lone Ranger all over Lake Michigan, and did every one of the single-handed races, the solo races. He was going between Michigan and Wisconsin and Indiana and Chicago. And that's how he spent his time learning how to sail, the Lone Ranger. And so the one moment that was pivotal, which is how we then get to Lorie, is in my bakery when Bill came out, and he said to me, "Would you be upset with me if I sailed around the world?" And in the heartbeat, I said, "I would be upset with you if you didn't." I said, "You must be thinking about this for a very long time, and I want to know what made you say it today." And he said, "I have never liked the idea of dying at all. And I had to come to terms with the fact that I could die alone. Nobody to comfort me, nobody to save me." And so once I could understand that and accept that, that was the moment when I could come out here and say to you, "Is it okay that I sail around the world?" And when he said that, I just went into high gear. In relationship, you show each other the possibilities, never the limitations. And so I went into high gear. And the next part is Lorie's, because Lorie was incredible and made a magnificent documentary about this voyage. So take it away, Lorie.
Oh, thank you so much, Ina. And I just learned so much new information about you and Bill from your introduction there. So I start in this chapter on Bill's history, but I was a field producer and a writer on a news magazine show here in Boston in 93. And my boss came in and called me into his office and said, "I have a box of tapes here that we have acquired. And they come from some guy out there sailing around the world alone. And I'd like you to take a look at them and see if there's a story there, because he has 3 cameras on his boat. And for the most part, he shot these tapes. And then somebody caught up with him in Brazil, I believe, and shot some footage there. There's some footage from a local affiliate station in Chicago of some of his family members talking about him. Just take a look." And there were about 20 tapes.
Yep.
And about 2 hours later, I came back into my boss's office and I said, "Is there a story here?" There is a remarkable amazing, incredible story. And I said, but it's not an 18-minute story of the show I was working on. I said, I've not done a documentary before, but I think this is what it calls for. And if you will, please let me produce and write a documentary with Joe Mosdies, who was the best editor we had on staff. I said, I think we could really make something very special that, we were owned by ABC or Hearst. And I said, I think this is the kind of thing that could go, on the ABC network line. And this is something that I think is very special. And so he said, great, you have 6 weeks. And I said, 6 weeks, wait. I stretched it out to maybe 9 weeks, but nonetheless, a very small budget was given to me. And this wonderful photographer, Ken Sullivan, and I believe it was Jim Fripp, incredible sound guy. We went down to Bermuda I knew I needed sort of a master interview with Bill, a long interview, because he was going to be coming into Bermuda. And I knew I couldn't get on the boat and film with him because he was sailing solo. But we would rent a boat off the coast of Bermuda and shoot what we needed to film to really create, fill in some of the blanks that the other tapes did not have. But what I was looking at from his cameras on board shots were absolutely cinematic. He was an amazing filmmaker with handling the boat at the same time. He had hoisted 3 cameras, one to a mast, a couple to other places. He had all of the accoutrements to put these cameras different places. At times, we got seasick in the edit room because the waves were so rocky. It was just such an amazing thing to see this footage unfolding before us. But before that, I went down to Bermuda and filmed with Ken and Jim and met with Bill over the course of a week and realized what a special, extraordinary human being he was, outside of the fact that he was a damn good sailor and photographer. But, he went on, opened his mouth, and as you know, Ina, out comes just this remarkable sage wisdom and understanding of the human condition based on his readings of everything, the Quran, the Talmud, the Bible. Yeah, deeply philosophical about life and nature and the human condition. And, he just wove that into this tale of the sea and what he was learning out there and why he wanted to do this, that I was mesmerized and knew that this was a very, very extraordinary opportunity. So grateful that I could be in this position to tell it with the help of remarkable, photographer and editor Joe Mosdies back at Channel 5. So I got back and they had already slated it for a September release, and it was July, August. So we just put paper over the edit room and we just started looking at all of the dailies, all the footage I had, all of the footage that he had shot. And that began really the adventure and the journey of putting this film together. Richard III had come out. I loved the music. We had the rights to it. And it just seemed like a good fit. And Bill had been in the Navy, as you had mentioned, Ina, and one of his buddies was Bill Cosby. And so he seemed like the appropriate, perfect person to narrate this at the time.
Yes.
I contacted his agent. He said, absolutely. I wrote the script and had a great editor, Chris Sterling, helping me with it, Mark Mills at Channel 5, and went through line by line, word by word. And then I was in the audio booth as Cosby went on to narrate this, and we got to work for the next several weeks filming it. And it just, somebody in the office said, Lorie, I didn't have a title. And she said, well, it's an incredible voyage. And I said, the Incredible Voyage of Bill Pinkney. And there was our title. So the rest is sort of history, because it has been, the one thing I didn't bring out though were our Boston school kids were here watching what he was doing through the transponder that was on the mast of the boat. And I went over to South Boston to film some of the students, both in the high school and the little middle school. And then I had gotten footage from the Chicago schools, kids also following their Bill's journey. And when the transponder, crashed and we didn't have the footage he didn't have communication. The kids were really concerned about him, and they were in time with him, in real time with him. So it brought his journey into their lives in a very huge way and in very impressive way. So that I wove into the narrative that not only was he doing it for his own dream, but he was inspiring others,
Mm-hmm.
students, and those who were going to watch this film.
Mm-hmm.
On some level, it's all, relative. If you have a dream and you're committed to it and you're willing to do the work to pursue it, anything's possible. It really
It's
is.
true. It's true. I
So,
want to add one more thing here. The Challenger had blown up, and the children who were watching that were very impacted by it. And so our concern was we had thousands of children in Boston and Chicago following the trip. And so we made tapes. And we had one that we would show the children if we hadn't heard from Bill in a long time to make sure that they knew, and one if he had been sick. And then we had what we called the God forbid tape that was locked away. And that was if we had found the boat and he was no longer on it. And his voice to them was, I never gave up on my dream. It just didn't finish for me, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't start yours.
yeah.
So
And
that's
so,
the other piece of that.
And so I know people are anxious to look at this film. It's been
Yeah.
a privilege. It's an evergreen story. And someday, Bill called me right before COVID hit, asking me if I would consider writing a proposal for a feature film, which I did. It's very early in the stages, but it's been sitting on my computer, and it would be wonderful someday to see his true story
Okay.
based
Do you think Bette Midler could play me?
Oh, I think
Oh,
she'd be perfect.
that's a really great
So
intro.
actually, Jamie Foxx is who Bill wanted to play him. But I think Duncan is ready to roll. And
All right,
yeah, and so
take
I
a look
hope
at this
everyone
now.
enjoys it. I'm happy to talk about it after.
Let's
Oh,
take a look at
absolutely.
Lorie's
Thank
work,
you, Lorie. I
and
learned a lot from you today that I did not know either.
here we go, everybody.
My belief has always been that I could do anything that I wanted to do if I decided that it was worth whatever it took to make it happen.
The specific reason is because he believes that if you got a dream and you make a dream a goal and you stick to it, that you can accomplish anything in life.
Pinkney, he could be my hero.
Well, one thing, he wanted to be the first black man to do this, so he could bring it back to the children of this city. And
he stated that he started off, looking to leave a legacy for his grandchildren, but I think he succeeded in leaving a legacy for thousands and thousands of other children as well.
What I wanted to do is I wanted to show them exactly what you could do with all the things that you learn in school. About mathematics, about geography, about history, about social studies, about ecology.
Challenging when you have a goal and you go for it, and then
First African American to make a solo, we call it a solo circumnavigation of the earth. When he gets done, he will have sailed 27,000 miles alone.
Hello, this is Bill Cosby. This is the story of a dream, of one man's quest for more, and a voyage that would change his life and the lives of those he touched.
The sea doesn't care what your economic status is, your religion, your nationality, your sex. It doesn't care what you think. It cares one thing. I am the sea. If you come out here, you better be prepared to deal with me. If you're not prepared to deal with me, I'll destroy you.
Bill Pinkney was born 57 years ago in Chicago's South Side. He was raised by his mother, a single parent. Bill graduated from high school, but didn't finish college. Pinkney spent 8 years in the Navy. From there, his career path took uncharted courses. Bill has been a professional limbo dancer, a bartender, an x-ray technician. Finally, he settled into a successful career as a makeup artist. He has worked on more than 150 movies and television commercials. Beginning in the 1970s, Pinkney worked for Revlon and Johnson Products as a makeup consultant. By the 1980s, he was lecturing at the prestigious Wharton School, the University of Pennsylvania, a long way from the south side of Chicago. Today, he and Ina, his wife of 27 years, live in Chicago. Bill is the father of one daughter, has 2 grandchildren, April and Brian.
I came from a neighborhood where if you got out of high school and you got a job at the post office or you got a job on the railroad, you were made. That was your life. That was the whole existence. To travel around the world or to go outside of the country was just nothing that you worried about.
By his 50th birthday, Pinkney was worrying about a story he had read when he was 12 and about a dream he had had ever since.
This is the book that really started me in the idea of wanting to sail as a kid. This book was written in 1940, and it's still just as true then as it was today. The book about the little boy who was a little different, who wanted to go away and prove to the world that he was somebody special. And he did it by sailing off by himself.
Bill's 82-year-old Aunt Alice sells newspapers in Chicago. She remembers her young nephew, the dreamer.
This is something that he wanted to do from a child. He had this wish, this desire. He wanted to sail around the world.
Bill's wife, Ina, who runs a successful restaurant in Chicago.
It's definitely a joint venture. Our whole marriage has been a joint venture. And years ago, when he worked and I didn't have to work and lived a very luxurious, cushy life, he was giving to me. And this is only my chance to turn around and give back.
Mr. Pinkney was already an established yacht racer on Lake Michigan and a commodore of a Chicago yacht club. But he also had to become a first-rate salesman to get the corporate backing needed for his round-the-world quest. After 5 years of searching, one phone call made a world of difference.
That was Dr. Armand Hammer of Occidental Petroleum. Called me up at my house. Called me up on the phone. The guy calls up. You could call up anyone, heads of states. Who's on the phone? Oh, it's Dr. Armand Hammer. Hold it just a minute, I'll talk to him.
Next came an article in the New York Times, caught the attention of a real estate investment group in Boston. One of the partners is Todd Johnson.
And there was a story about Bill. And it talked about this fellow, unique black sailor from Chicago. I had lived in Chicago for a while, a few years back, and thought I knew the only black sailor. It turned out there was more than one, after all. And Tom said to me, gee, you know, we've had a great deal of success investing in Chicago on behalf of our clients. We've been very fortunate because we've made a great deal of money doing that for them. And there really ought to be some way to put something back into this community.
Partner Tom Eastman.
I was just impressed by an individual saying, okay, I'm going to make a statement. I'm going to try and do something. I can make a contribution outside the system and have an impact.
Within the next year, the 47-foot Valiant was purchased by the Boston Investment Partners. When Bill renamed the boat the Commitment, the real purpose behind his voyage came into focus.
If you are willing to make a commitment, if you're willing to learn what has to be learned to make your dream come true and able to apply that and not let anything deter you, you can be successful. That's it.
On August 5th, 1990, Mr. Pinkney left Boston Harbor for the first leg of his solo sail around the world. With 2 camcorders on board, Bill kept a daily video diary. Problems with the boat caused a stop in Bermuda, but by late October, he arrived in Salvador, Brazil.
All in all, I've enjoyed it so far, and it has been not quite as difficult as I thought in some areas. The difficulty has been in getting my sleep pattern established so that I can sleep an hour or 2 at a time and still wake up and be fully alert when I do wake up.
A wind vane kept the boat on course when Bill was not at the helm. But all the high-tech gear in the world could not change the most basic fact of life for Mr. Pinkney. The ocean was an all-powerful force, a relentless challenger.
They say it was a tropical wave with winds to 35 knots, which took me, and I lost my virginity, as it were, and I got knocked down. And that's not something that one likes to have happen.
But there'll be times when I'm out here and I ask myself, why am I doing it? And I'll ask myself, why, what? I don't need this. And it'll all come back to you. The boat's built strong. It can take it. Stay healthy. Stay on board. You can make it. After I got this far from shore, this is where the term commitment really comes in, because I'm committed.
First stop will be Salvador de Bahia in Brazil.
To get his message out, Mr. Pinkney worked with the public schools in Boston and Chicago. During the 22-month trip, he sent video postcards, called schools on his sea phone, and put together a computer program based on the voyage to teach math and science. What began as a legacy for Bill's 2 grandchildren became a floating classroom for thousands of school children.
Pilot whales.
These children are in real time with a real person. And the experiences that he is going through, and as he explains it to them, when he visits with them, are truly human experiences. When he says he's afraid, they can sense that. When he says that he's proud, they can sense that.
At South Boston High School, these students learned much about the ocean and much more about a certain word.
Commitment. It's something that is when you start something and you just keep on. It's a strength you have inside not to quit.
This man, do what you say you're going to do. It's just like a promise to yourself.
Point is, you got to keep trying at it. If you don't, you might fail. You can't fail in life.
As I got involved in this more and more and more, and the kids more and more contact with drawings and letters and postcards and the direct contact with them in doing the in-school things, they became sort of a driving force within me and sort of a spiritual force that I drew from on those days when things were just not quite right.
Okay,
in suburban Weston, Wendell-born 7th graders saw concepts like longitude and latitude come to life.
Now see if you can find a spot on your map and just put a dot there and a date.
Salvador de Bahia, the original capital of Brazil. A city founded and established by the Portuguese, built by African slaves.
Slave ships stopped in Salvador en route to North America. Today, Salvador's culture reflects that heritage. Of the city's 2 million people, 85% are black, and the African influence is alive in music and dance. If that beat sounds familiar, Paul Simon popularized this drum corps named Uladum on his Rhythm of the Saints album recorded in Payero Square. By November, Mr. Pinkney left Salvador for Africa. Across the southern Atlantic, he would sail 34 days, a solitary voyage that would prove to be anything but predictable.
Not a wave, not a ripple. Water, water, everywhere. Oh, how the boards did shrink. Water,
Water everywhere, and not a drop to drink. The same in this case goes for wind. There is none. I'm still about 24 to 2,500 miles from where I have to go, which is Cape Town. The wind has not been cooperating at all. And so, for a little levity, I've got my rubber nose here. At this point, levity is about all you can do, because there's nothing else except waiting for the wind to come. Now, when I tell somebody about this, they're going to say I'm not telling the truth. I've been becalmed all day. It's November 22nd. This bird is swimming faster than I'm sailing. I mean, give me a break. I'm 700 and some miles southeast of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, heading for Africa. And this bird has started swimming and has swam up close, and he's coming here to see me. I mean, that's slow.
For Bill Pinkney, survival is success. 24 hours after being becalmed, he learned another key to success: flexibility.
Good morning. This is the last remnants of what was a pretty bad storm last night. I had winds of 33 knots with gusts probably higher, but I couldn't measure them. And I'm down to just a mainsail now because I couldn't carry any more sail than that.
Back in Boston, students could pinpoint Bill's location at the Boston Computer Museum.
The way that's working is on his boat he has this transmitter, and this sends up signals which one of two satellites will receive and send back down to processing centers, and then we'll be able to call up every few hours and get a new location. We get about 5 or 6 new locations a day.
Now the neat thing, of course, about Bill Pinkney, and as we've been following him now all year long,
in the classroom like this one at South Boston High School, teacher Carl Johnson got his students involved in Bill Pinkney's remarkable journey.
There's a very, very interesting human factor here that you can't separate it. The kids are amazing. I mean, they have a great capability of accepting personalities and becoming attached to them, even though they don't know them.
When Bill called in, his message and that human connection would make the bond even stronger.
Bill, this is Dave. What message do you want to give to all the kids who are following you?
The message I'd like to give them is the basis to anything you want to do in life is a sound education. It is. Once you've got that basis, the next thing you got to have is perseverance and a dream to follow and a desire to make it happen. And that's a commitment, which is what the boat's for. So that's what I'll tell you. Get a good sound education, get as much as you can, and don't let it stop the day you get your diploma. That's when it really begins.
The spinnaker, the place, the event, and it's just fantastic. Fantastic!
On December 14th, 1990, 34 days and more than 3,000 miles out of Brazil, Bill Pinkney arrived in South Africa.
Here I am returning to the continent of Africa many generations removed. Not to necessarily a feeling of a homecoming, but a feeling of being in touch with the ancestral roots, as it were. And that was just tremendous. The political statement was obvious for those who would know it. For those who wouldn't know it, no explanations are going to be given. I chose to I was going to get a spinnaker made, and I chose those colors. I chose those colors because of that significance. And I felt that it was
really a necessity for me to show my face in South Africa. Just to show that with all its bad points, America still has the wherewithal to be able to afford the opportunity for any one of its citizens to do something like this. And I felt that it was necessary for me to go there and show the flag, as it were.
Everywhere he went, Bill was adopted by one of the local families. In South Africa, Reggie Phillips and his family took Bill into their home and celebrated the holidays with him.
We're happy to know you. We're happy to have met you.
Yeah.
And we've grown to love you.
As a black sailor, it bothers Bill Pinkney to be thought of as unique or out of place. Historically, he says, blacks have a rich tradition of sailing. It's just that history books have yet to tell the story.
We've always been doing what we wanted, but you see, it's like the idea of someone says, well, do you know the name of Paul Revere's horse? And everyone says, well, I don't know what the name of the horse was. The reason you don't know the horse's name is the horse did not write the story.
How many of you have been on a boat?
But these students know who sailed, the commitment, and their connection to Bill Pinkney's voyage is something they are proud of.
I like when a black person do something good for our country.
He made a commitment, a promise, and he's gonna keep that promise to me.
Doesn't matter what color you are or anything, you can still do anything if you're determined.
Hi kids, this is the American way of greeting, but I will say in the South African way of greeting, goeiemorgen and welcome. This is the Cape of Good Hope, but it was known before the seafarers came here and discovered the Cape. It was known as Cabo Tormentoso, which is known as the Cape of Storms.
This is the Cape of Good Hope, the most southwesterly cape in the continent of Africa. I'll be rounding this cape in about 6 days on my way to Hobart, Tasmania.
By January 1991, Bill set his course for the first of the 5 Great Capes. His departure was full of tearful farewells and the promise that he would someday return to South Africa.
Goodbye, Cape Town. I will see you again.
This is a pitch to ask you to join us at the American Schooner Association. Founded in 1972, the American Schooner Association is dedicated to the history, preservation, and promotion of the schooner rig. You don't need to be a schooner owner to join the organization, just to be interested in these beautiful boats. As time marches forward, the role that schooners played in the history of our country is fading too. Your membership helps support educational programs and provides a base for preserving these vessels. So, join us. It's inexpensive, important, and we'd love to have you along. We'll see you at amschooner.net.
This is the Southern Ocean.
Just want to let you know that things are pretty crummy. It's been very, very rough. For 7 days I've had nothing but bad weather, and it is not over, as you can hear now. And you can see that things are flying out to the side. They're like, almost like they're haunted or something. That's because that's the angle of heel that the boat's doing right now. This is my welcome to Hobart party. I just got around the Cape, everything was going fine, and this is what happened.
5,000 miles from Cape Town, 7 weeks alone at sea, Bill Pinkney is headed for Tasmania. He reaches a point in the Indian Ocean, 40 degrees south, between Africa and Australia, known as the Roaring Forties. Unfortunately for Bill, it's a stretch of ocean that lives up to its name.
They are at their wits' end. Then they cry out unto the Lord in their trouble, and he bringeth them out of their distress. He maketh the storm a calm, so that the waves thereof are still. That is the 107th Psalm. So apropos the situation that I'm in right now. I wait now for the waves to be calm.
Day after miserable day, the winds battered the boat and Bill's spirit. The Argo's satellite transponder is destroyed. The head sail is shred. Bill tries a detour north to avoid the storm, but to no avail. Back in Chicago, Todd Johnson, Bill's navigator tracker, is worried.
Yeah, although you feel a certain sense of helplessness at some times. You know, I'm a sailor myself, and I know what he's experiencing out there, but you never know exactly what the conditions are.
This came adrift after my last big knockdown. The biggest thing I'm worried about now is that banging up there and destroying something else. After that major disaster, this is what I see. Feast or famine, isn't it? Feast or famine. And then that.
In Iceberg.
And Weston, Wendell Bourne and his 7th graders are inspired by Bill's courage.
One of the students commented that, you know, life has ups and it has downs, and to see him actually kind of overcome some of the downs through this journey, I think would be inspirational for them in their real lives.
Whatever the weather conditions, life must go on board the Commitment. In stormy conditions, survival is all that matters. On better days, Pinkney runs a pretty tight ship.
I eat pretty good. The only problem I had on this trip is that on this leg, I didn't bring along enough breakfast food. So I have ramen noodles for breakfast sometimes. This is called Commitment's special middle of the ocean succotash.
I would wash my clothes in a bucket in salt water, wring them out really well, then fill the bucket with fresh water and rinse them in fresh water to rinse the salt out. And like I say, I had a lot of clothes. So the longest trip I had was 65 days. And so I maybe washed a couple of times that. You don't have the wonderful social graces that you would have even if you had someone else on board. So I don't really go through all of the wonderful nettoyage things that people would normally do. My mother would kill me if she heard me say that. People ask me, how could you stand it like that, being by yourself? You know, it's wonderful sovereignty being alone. Think of this, how much time in 24 hours is actually yours that people don't steal from you? Someone says, oh, can I have a minute, just a minute for this, that, or the other. I've never been afraid in this whole time. I have been concerned, very concerned. I was concerned once. The most concerned I would ever say that I've been was I was in the River Platte coming up to Punta del Este, Uruguay, and I'm getting lightning storms all around, and they're getting closer and closer and closer. And I was really concerned because there's nothing you can do about lightning. So I went in the drawer and I got a little bottle of Bacardi rum that I had, chugged that down. I have a tape of Kathleen Battle.
I'm so overcome, I can't even talk well. Of course, I haven't talked to anybody in so long. It's difficult.
Finally, Bill reaches his first landfall in 56 days, Hobart, Tasmania. In Hobart, the boat is dry docked for repairs. Back on solid ground, Bill took a side trip to explore the country down under, but not before spreading his message to the school kids in Australia. In 27,000 miles, Bill never saw a shark or a whale, but in Tasmania, he saw the devil.
I'm in a, I guess you'd call it, high mountain rainforest. It's like stepping back into the times of the dinosaurs.
With the onset of winter and the danger of icebergs, Bill had to take the next several months off. Mr. Pinkney returned to Boston and Chicago, visiting schools and recharging his own batteries for the final and most difficult leg of his journey. By December 1991, he was back in Tasmania, reunited with the commitment. He wonders, is he prepared for the worst part of his expedition, Cape Horn, at the tip of South America? In 4,600 miles, he will find out.
Well, they have plenty of books, plenty of food, plenty of videotapes, plenty of water. And I'm just gonna have to hang in here and do the time. The bottom line pays off anyway, because once I get there, I know it's gonna be an experience of my life. I look forward to it so much. Now, this and this need to be put in shape to take me where I have to go. Hi there. So it's December 27th. It's been gray and raining the last couple of days. Really crap. But I've had to put up with it because I'm making good time. And I'm heading for Stewart Island, which is the fourth of the 5 Great Capes. Another landmark. Another step forward toward my final goal. This is in the Tasman Sea, which is between New Zealand and Australia. And it's known for its bad news weather. You can see it's banging me around a lot. This is the only amount of sail I've got up.
It took Mr. Pinkney 50 days to reach the end of the earth, Cape Horn at the tip of South America. Terrible weather and broken equipment wreaked havoc with the boat, and more importantly, with Bill's state of mind.
I've been in gales for the last 2.5 days, and it's been pounding and running back and forth and not getting anywhere and being very, very frustrated. It's difficult enough as it is out there. Just the fact that you're going to sail by yourself for this period of time brings with it some inherent psychological difficulties. I'm very weak, so I don't have the strength to endure long. I just have to do it on pure guts. How's everything going, Bill? It's going.
Every night, Bill talked with Fred Chew, a ham radio operator in New Bedford, Massachusetts. He would also call his best friend, his wife, Ina.
I call on a regular basis, but those calls that sometime I've just got to talk. That's who I call. Yeah, my psychiatrist, my advisor, my stabilizer. That's what she does.
As you look at that map, where's Cape Horn?
Down here. But as Bill ventured even closer to the treacherous Cape Horn, Ina sensed real danger.
It was the most emotional that I've been throughout his entire journey, just knowing he was out there and he was suffering. He said he was scared. He said he was determined. That sounds just like Bill to me. I've never really heard him sound nervous.
Last night he was almost at Cape Horn. This is the most dangerous section of water in the world. The temperature down there is currently about 40 degrees. It's about 35 degrees at night, 40 to 45 degrees during the day. When he called, he was under bare poles. There were no sails up in the boat because it was blowing too hard. The wind was blowing between 55 and 60 miles an hour, and the seas were about 30 feet tall. That's about as tall as this building is. And last night when he talked to me, he said, "I'm gonna make it no matter what."
This is a celebration. This is a celebration of my rounding Cape Horn.
On Valentine's Day 1992, in driving rain and thick fog, and after spending 48 hours straight at the helm, Bill Pinkney rounds Cape Horn.
This is to all of you who've been with me all along. And now this is the piece that Ina gave me to think about, to play when this time came. And I think it's apropos of everything that I've wanted and dreamed of my whole life. It's right here. Just in one moment. I'm only my finest is yet unknown. It's dumb, but you only do this once in your lifetime if you're lucky. Why not be crazy? Some people thought I was crazy to even start it. Some days I thought so too. Yes. Drink too much of this, I still have to steer about 8,000 miles to get home.
High speed to the commitment.
True to his word, he calls the Douglas School in Chicago to share the news.
Just hearing his voice 25 miles off of Cape Horn is an experience that most people don't have, and these children have it today.
We were praying.
But did he get around the horn?
Yes, he got around.
Beautiful.
But
why everybody praying that I could
and I prayed too.
I look at this experience as being one of a lifetime. Because it's a culmination of everything that's happened to me in my whole life. And the people who've been involved in my life. My parents, my friends, my family, my teachers. Those institutions that have supported me. This is solo. No one's here aboard the boat but me. But I truly am not alone.
Good morning, boys and girls. It is 6 o'clock in the morning, and the
southern portion of the Atlantic Ocean, not far from the Falkland Islands. I am on my way north up to the country of Uruguay and the town of Punta del Este. That's where I'll take my first rest after coming from Hobart, Tasmania, over 7,000 miles. I've been at sea 53 days so far, and in those 53 days I've seen everything from flat calm to waves that are 20, 25 feet high.
In mid-February, Bill is heading north and stops in Punta del Este, Uruguay, Salvador, Brazil, and Bermuda. The journey is almost over. Mr. Pinkney is a changed man, a different kind of sailor.
Gold earring in the left ear. It's a symbol. This is the traditional symbol of the Cape Horner. When you went around Cape Horn in the days of clipper ships, you pierced your ear with a sailing needle, a sailmaker's needle, and you put in a gold earring. And that shows that you were a different kind of sailor, one who had made the treacherous trip around Cape Horn. This has had a profound change on the part of my being that says what's important, what's not important. I find that it's become very simplistic. A lot of things that were important before aren't really important now. And yeah, that's changed me a lot.
By early May, Bill arrives in Bermuda to a warm welcome from the Prime Minister.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Everyone has done number 3 has had bad trouble. Let's see how well you do with it.
And a game of hopscotch with his 6th graders. In the school assembly, his message rings loud and clear.
One of the very sad things that I found is that in some of the places I went, it was not really beautiful. Because they started out with beautiful places like you have here.
That's all I'm saying is that, hey, if I can do this, and I've got no more than you've got, give me a break. Don't come singing sad stories to me about what you can't do. It's up to you. It's your responsibility to do it. If you don't want to, if you believe you're a loser, you're right. Conversely, if you believe you're a winner, no one can take that away from you.
On June 9th, 1992, Bill Pinkney's dream comes true. He became the first African American to sail solo around the world, and only the 41st sailor in history to do it. More people have scaled Mount Everest than sailed solo around the 5 Great Capes.
Probably I learned that I'm smarter than I thought I was, and I'm dumber than I thought I was. Because every day is a learning experience. All right! I'm going to come around.
22 months after departing Boston Harbor, Bill Pinkney arrived back a hero, cheered on by thousands of students, teachers, and friends.
Look at your face! Skinny me? How you doing?
I love you.
Yeah.
I love you so much.
for me. You brought me back. Thank you.
He needed to assert to the children that nobody is allowed to steal your dreams, that if they give you something to stick up your arm or up your nose, they're stealing your dreams, and just because you're black or Latino or a woman, nobody has a right to steal your dreams, and he went out to prove that.
While Bill's commitment had many challenges, on this sparkling jewel of a day in Boston Harbor, it certainly had its rewards.
One of the most difficult things about all of this is being alone. And at no time that I've been on this trip, no matter how long it took to get from one place to the other, did I ever feel alone. Because each and every one of you was with me. The whole idea of this was to tell you one thing, that no matter who you are, or where you come from, or what anybody else tells you, you and your dream are important and doable. They are, every one of them. There is, like everything else, two little letters, and those letters are IF. If you get a sound basic education. I went through everything I ever learned in the first 12 years of school probably 3 times every single day when I was out there. If you are willing to work for your dream and never quit, you are responsible for making your dream happen. I expected of you just as you expected me to make mine come true. Thank you so very much.
Captain William Bill Pinkney.
Congratulations. Get over on the side.
1 week later, Bill's family, friends, and school children welcomed their sailor back to Chicago. Ladies and gentlemen, this moment speaks for itself.
Congratulations, Captain Bill Pinkney, for your wonderful journey around the world. Now I would like to recite a little poem from one of your favorite authors, T.E. Lawrence. Those who dream at night in the dusty recesses of their mind wake in the day to find that all is vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act on their dreams with open eyes and make it possible. Thank you.
Words like dare to dream, words like the children have said, you made a commitment and you returned in triumph and we are inspired. Words like valiant and ultimately the word hero. And I know the word hero does not rest comfortably or easily on Bill's ears. But the classical definition of hero is one who accomplishes a great feat and returns to share the enlightenment. And if you promise us, Bill, to share honestly the enlightenment of your life experiences at sea, you have no choice but to be called hero by us all.
I think it's important that people not wait. Don't wait. Now is the time to do what you need to do. We put so much on, and particularly as American culture, on planning for the future and planning for the future. And by the time you get to the future, you're too old, too tired, or you don't make it. It never happens. First of all, to thine own self be true. And it surely follows the night, the day, you can be false to no man. And I think that's an adage to have. This, to me, is at a level in my life and in my experience, at a certain level, that is as equally as important and as adventurous as someone else's dream. It doesn't have to be sailing around the world, it could be anything. It's the fact that if it's yours, do it. That's important. This is a trip that started in August of 1990 and will end when they put the ashes out to sea. Still going on.
That's what I'll tell you. Get a full sound education, get as much as you can. Don't let it stop until you get through the program. That's what it's going to be.
Wow, I have a little post-traumatic restaurant disorder and everything else today. Wow. Duncan, I can't hear you.
There we go. It was just
Okay.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Tell us about
absolutely.
what you're feeling right now, ladies.
Oh, Lorie, I just need to say again, it was breathtaking. You have done a masterful job of capturing what it was to be Bill. I know I've been crying the whole time. Thank you, Lorie. Thank you for documenting this the way you did, with the love that you did with it. It's
it was such a privilege. That's all I can say. And it's been a while since I watched the whole thing.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And you know, we had so much to work with, and most of it was shot by Bill. And he was a masterful sailor and filmmaker, and tell his own story like that. You know, it was a matter of me putting the puzzle together with Joe Mosdy's, the editor, was so so it was a privilege, really a privilege. And I'm, you know, I was delighted. It was my first doc and it won a Peabody. And
yes,
I'm, you know,
I got one as a field
my
producer.
favorite one.
I know. So Bill said to me once, the most courageous thing that he ever did in his life was untying the boat to leave. After that, everything was staying alive.
Yeah.
But that was the moment. And a good friend of ours, Dr. Norman Bernstein, he was the one who had given Bill a medical kit and made sure he had everything he needed just in case. And Norman was the one that untied the boat. And Norman died not long after that. And we didn't know it, and I couldn't tell that to Bill. So it was really, it was a wonderful moment that I could share with him when he got back. There is something that I want to end my part with, Duncan and Lorie. When Bill came back and sailed into the history books, we know very well that Black history is oftentimes ignored and erased. And even now, more than ever, people see fit to erase a Black history. When Bill came home, Senator Ted Kennedy stood in the well of the Senate and read Bill's entire trip and his triumphant return into the congressional record, so that Bill Pinkney and his achievement would always be part of the history of America.
And rightfully so. And my coda with Bill was this cobblestone sidewalk behind me here is at Boston, on Boston Seaport. And when Bill pulled up in the Amistad, he was the captain of the Amistad. I was there with another crew shooting a short film on him for that. And, you know, I just thought he's just come full circle here.
Yeah.
What an amazing life that started after the age of 50.
Yes, that's really, that was for sure. You know, he mentioned all the videos that he had that he was watching on board.
Yeah.
So I was making copies of all the TV shows that he loved. And I would have it on in another room. And when it was a commercial, I would run in and pause it. And then when I sent him all of these things, and he called me up and he goes, "Where are the commercials?" I went, "Oh, I just took them out because and he says, "How am I going to know what the new cars look like? How am I going to know what the new products are?" And I went, "Oh my God."
As if he didn't have enough to think about.
Right. So then I could just let it run. But I was running in to take out the commercials, which I thought was so funny.
Well, if there are any questions or any remembrances that people want to share who knew Bill, we'd love to hear that from you.
I've got something here from Robert Chichester. It says, I count Bill as a friend. It was thanks to him that I worked up the nerve to apply for a job as a relief captain on schooner Meerwald.
Ah, excellent.
For a man of his stature, to express his confidence in my abilities is something not to be underestimated.
Ah,
wonderful.
There you go. There you go.
Information. Yeah.
He was. You know, when Bill was kind of a scrawny kid, and the streets of Chicago were a little bit too dangerous for him. And so after school, he would go to the Museum of Science and Industry, and he would sit in front of every single exhibit, and he would read every single thing about it. And he became one of the most knowledgeable generalists I have ever known. And that's what you saw coming up. He had poetry right under his tongue all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so.
Oh, well read.
If anyone has any questions, this is the time to ask them.
Mm-hmm.
Type away. You've got a lot of thank you so muches. And I'll tell you, my cell phone has been blowing up with
good
compliments on this. So you
good.
guys
You know, we would love to make a feature film. One of the things that Bill called me right before COVID hit, asking if I would write a treatment for a film, feature film or a series, whatever. And so I do have a very, early version of a treatment for a feature or some kind of a drama based on his life and story about the solo sail. So if anybody wants to contact me, they can get to me through Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
And be happy to share the dramatic treatment with someone who might be interested in pursuing it.
It's a good story. It's a real story, but it has all the elements.
It's really transcendent, right?
Yeah, it really is extraordinary. I want to thank everybody who tuned in. We put it out as much as we could, and that it will be available, and we'll be able to send it to people who want it.
Yes, indeed. Thank you all for being here with us and sharing in Bill's story. We appreciate it because it's easy. It's hard to make these things, and it's always hard to get them out there. And so even though it's many years later, it's great that people continue to watch this story that has so much to offer.
Right.
Well, I'm going to throw one more in on you from Tony Kitchens. Bill and I became friends when we lived in Puerto Rico. Every conversation was filled with his wisdom and experiences. Even today, he's an inspiration. Ladies, I want to thank you so much.
You know, the jib that he talked about, I mean, the spinnaker, those were the African National Congress colors. And he and a young man named Neil Peterson were going to go out and meet together. And Neil was an Afrikaner, and they were going to sail around Robben's Island as a show of support for Nelson Mandela, who had been released just a couple of months before. But Neil Peterson came out, and Bill had his spinnaker all ready to roll. So
yeah,
I know.
Political statements every time I see that scene.
I know.
Very beautiful.
Yours.
All right, my friends, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you.
Yes, the most meaningful night. Thank you so much, Duncan. Thank you all.
Very moving film, and a very moving experience with you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And on behalf of the American Schooner Association and the Great Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race, thanks for joining us. And we'll have this up on our websites probably within 24 hours.
Thank you.
I will pass out a link to those of you who've joined us and everyone else who has signed on but couldn't quite make it. Good night, everyone.